All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And as sometimes I'm going to get real with you people. I'm going to take it to a real dark place.
Oh, shit.
I'm talking dark but soulful with a lot of heart. No, look, we're going to talk about something a bit... I've been compared to him before, I think. You know, mostly for my soul.
And the fact you're blind.
We're going to talk about something a bit serious, but I have to share with you guys this because I found this the other day and it's so brilliant. It's the pod, you'll know I'm a massive douchebag. And if you haven't, you're about to learn. This is something I found and it was titled Letter to Colleagues. So this is when I left a job back in 2015.
Right.
I was probably only there for about 2 years, a little over 2 years. And it's so brilliantly. I laughed and laughed and laughed, and then I thought, I've got to share this on the pod. It's so fucking bad. To all colleagues, past and present, I'm aware how unusual it is for a departing member of staff to write an open letter to their colleagues who are both still at the company and who have left for various reasons. And we were off to a winner, aren't we? This is an open letter, by the way, apparently. I don't know where I got that fact
from. Not closed to anyone.
I know it's open, no. I would simply like to thank you. I will not be mentioning any specific names or addressing anyone personally in this letter, as I feel it may be unfair to those who deserved a mention but did not get one. From my very first day as a Christmas temp, the whole team was so warm and welcoming that any nerves I had needn't bother showing up. You were patient with me as I grew in the role, both as a sales advisor and a duty manager. You taught me not only the specific ways to the store and the industry, but about working life in general.
Right. How old were you during this?
That's about 22, 23.
Fucking. Talk about self-important.
It gets so much better. There was, of course, a mixture of both highs and lows on the roller coaster journey of my employment. I may not have liked every member of staff I've worked with, but in all honesty, I can only name 2 that I was happy to see the back of. And in 2 years, in a high turnover industry, I think to only be able to name 2 is not bad at all. Now, that's fair. That's a fair reflection.
I feel like you might as well have just named them, though.
Well, but they weren't there.
Well, I feel like they would have known you disliked them so much, they would know it was them if they read it.
No, because one of them didn't. One of them thought I liked them.
Fair enough.
And every time I was cruel to them, they were like, "Oh, he's so funny." I'm like, "I'm not joking. I
Is
think
that
you're a
who I
horrible
think
fucking
it
human
is?
being. That is who you think it is." They're like, it's so funny. It's good banter." I'm like, "It's not banter. Like, I'm telling you, it's not banter. I don't like you.
You're a horrible human being.
I think you're the worst person I've ever met in my life." Anyway, I would like to thank the team above our stores management, our regional manager and loss prevention manager, both of whom, although occasionally overreacted and pressured, were ultimately a help to me and provided me with a fairly consistent stream of support. That's a lie, they didn't. That's why I left. So fuck knows what I was thinking. They were a huge help in allowing me to be competent, or at least I hope I was, as your supervisor.
Fair play.
No, the self-importance just is so big in that sentence. They were a huge help in allowing me to be competent, or at least I hope I was, as your supervisor, as your leader, my good people.
I feel like you were Sir Alex at Man United leaving. Do you know what I mean?
It's got that ring of it. I will be sad to be leaving all of you. You were an outstanding team, not without your flaws, of course, but an excellent team nonetheless. Why mention it? Why mention the flaws? I'm going away. Like, why do I need to bring that up? Anyway, there are at least 4 members of staff still present in the store who I know for a fact will testify that, in comparison to other places and stores they've worked, our team was easily the best. And you are. It's so good. So good. May you continue to shine in
for a rival team or something.
This next sentence is possibly my favourite sentence of the whole piece. It's easily one of the most dramatic sentences I've ever written in my life, context dependent.
That says a lot.
May you continue to shine in an industry that blacks out joy in place of jolted productivity.
Continue to shine.
No, it's great. I'm saying that the industry blacks out in place of, it puts jolted productivity where there should be joy, which it's blacked out. It's brilliant as a sentence. The customers are behind you and have been vocal about your excellence, even as recent as my second to last shift. The management team in here in store are behind you. And even though I no longer work with you, I am behind you. Though I no longer stand beside you, I will always stand behind you. How good is that?
Sounds very rapey, I'm not going to lie.
May you all have success both individually and as a team, and I look forward to seeing you in the future, which was a lie. I went back there twice, once to buy pants and once just as a little trip about 6 months after I left.
Fair enough.
But
I'm not really sure how to react to that.
The self-important. Can I just say, first of all, never sent it. I never released that letter. That letter was for my eyes only. For our eyes only.
What was the motivation behind it?
I don't have a clue. I don't know. But I'm particularly fond of. I know I've just said the blacking out joy in place of jolted productivity.
Down to write a ranting letter, and then you slowly, over a course of or period of time, changed it to that. I don't know.
Or someone, I saw myself in the mirror and caught glimpses of like a Laurence Olivier type, and I was like, "Come, my dear boy, allow me to expand on our time together." And I absolutely love at the end. Though I no longer stand beside you, I will always stand behind you. Which again is a lie. I don't give a fuck about those people. I want to make that perfectly clear. I don't care about those people anymore.
It explains all the sleepless nights, doesn't it? You're just worried how they're getting on.
I was just so shocked. I mean, like, there's a couple of people that I did like, and I genuinely, if they reached out and said, "Do you want to go for a coffee or a beer?" I would. But for the most part, I could not give a fuck.
All that did was bring Vietnam flashbacks of how you failed to warn me off of a previous partner.
Oh yeah, well, that's because for the listeners that know or don't know, the colleague that I happen to think is the single worst human being on the planet, and is, for the record.
No comment.
Well, my co-host here actually met up with me one day and said, "I'm going on a date with this girl," and showed me a picture, and I think what I said to you was "run," or something to that effect.
Those were your exact words. You were like, "Oh, fuck me."
And
run.
You went on the date, you dated for a few months, and then as time drew on, I remember that conversation came more and more relevant. You kept saying, "I should have listened. I should have listened."
Yep. So
Despicable.
My piece of advice to any listener out there that's perhaps dating a girl and his friends aren't sure, especially if they've worked in close proximity to the person, and they warn you that not only should you run, but they're a horrible human being and you're better off without them, no matter how much your dick is leading your head in that situation.
And it happens to all of us. We've all been there.
Listen to your friend and fucking run.
You really should run. I mean, this particular person, she came into work one day, and she was like, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian or something," and I was like, "Oh, and?" But I didn't say that because I was like, "Well, hang on a minute," because like yesterday or the 2 days before, I'd seen her come in for lunch with a KFC bag. I'm like, "Mate, no one goes to KFC for the salads and the chips." Do you know what I mean? Like, let's just get that clear. And she'd spoken to me at the week, and she'd spoken to me before about how she'd had a roast over the weekend, and I was like, right, so I know you're not like, if you're a vegetarian, it's a new thing.
I remember you telling me, and this was before I met her or anything like that, that you had this dickhead colleague that was causing problems over the Christmas meal, and it couldn't be here and it couldn't be there, and they were vegetarian, all of this, and then you finally found somewhere they approved of, and you told them that you booked it, and they were like, well, I'm not coming.
Mate, could not have been more dramatic. Oh man, she fucked me off so much. And the other thing, because the thing is, once I got through with them and had the little like, because I can't let that shit go. I'm getting better at letting it go. But when she was like, "I'm vegetarian," I was like, "Well, you're not." Okay. And then I got to the point where I was sort of like, I explained to her that she is, it's new. And she was like, no, blah, blah, blah. And I sort of said, I'm going to stop you there though. So I don't give a flying fuck what you do or eat, like in this place or outside of this place. I care about what you do from the minute you clock in and you're on the floor working. I care about.
Yeah.
The rest of it, you fucking go crazy. You flip-flop in and out of vegetarianism. I don't care.
I mean, I remember when I met her parents, the subject came up. And I was like, you were never a vegetarian then. She was like, I was for about 6 months to a year. And then her mum was like, but she'd have the occasional roast. And I was like, so she wasn't a vegetarian.
So you're not vegetarian.
My sister went through a vegetarian phase, and then she went to the south of France and was having blue steak, and and it's like, oh, that went well, didn't it?
It's really
the worst part is she had a piece of meat that was as close to an alive animal as she could have got.
Why did she have her steak rare?
Yeah, blue, which basically means it gets shown
Oh,
a
yeah,
frying
sorry, you
pan.
did say.
It gets shown to a frying pan, and that's about it. But right, we sort of it was very off topic what we've been discussing.
Yeah, no, I thought I had to open with something light, and look, I
Um,
just found it, and I was like, I've got to share that because it's so bad, it's so good.
The pod we wanted to talk about today is in the wake of really sad recent events, which was
Yes.
the King of Wakanda himself, the Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, sadly passing away after losing his fight with colon cancer.
Yes, 43 years old, no age to
Yeah.
die. And the sort of the thing that prompted this conversation was a conversation that, well, I'll get into it, but you know, the fact is he was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer, if reports to be believed, in 2016. He then went on to make 5 movies, which is a big commitment, that movies, especially the 2 of the movies that he did, you know, Infinity War and Endgame. They're huge movies that take huge commitment. And he made 5 movies before succumbing to the disease. Well, just a couple of weeks before recording, a week or so before recording.
Yeah.
And I think the big question was, you know, he didn't know when he was cast as T'Challa, but what prompted the discussion initially was, would you tell your employers up front that you had this kind of disease, that you were ill? I keep calling it a disease, but that you were sick, that you were ill. Because taking on a contract that he did, you know, that has huge ramifications, and the likelihood is, and we've said it, you know, for the start of the program, completely understand why he didn't disclose it, why he was discreet about it and private about it, and I've got full respect and admiration for him for doing that. I don't know how he disclosed it or whether he disclosed it to his close family, but for far as the public are concerned, huge respect and admiration for not.
Yeah.
Especially,
Honestly,
would he have got cast if they don't know? Would they have recast it? Sorry,
I
if
would
they'd have known.
imagine if he knew at the start and he told them, I would imagine not. I'd imagine they would have found someone else personally, because it will set them back. Not that it matters, if that makes sense, like in terms of the situation, but it will set them back and probably cost them or make them have to change things, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. But in terms of a movie studio being black and white, they probably would have found someone else, I'd imagine.
Yeah, or recast after Civil War, because Black Panther, the first Black Panther film, was made whilst he had the diagnosis, and it was an opportunity for them to work.
Do we
in
know
the story
whether they knew at
or
some point or they found out when he died?
At the moment, we don't know.
Because I don't know. I imagine the cynical part of me maybe thought they saw it as a potential positive, if that made sense. Like if he made it through it, that would be a great story. If he didn't, it's a bump in sales.
Yeah, they can repackage all the
films
and yeah.
So it's a really hard one. And then I've had several thoughts on whether I think he should have told them or not. And part of me says, well, no, fuck him, he shouldn't. But I think his motivation probably was 2 things. I think one, it's making sure his family are financially secure after he's gone, and he would have earned a good whack playing that role.
Aye.
But also, having seen all the things that have come out afterwards, he was a very... I'm trying to think of the right phrasing, but he was very conscious of societal issues, especially when it comes to race. And I think he knew how much the film Black Panther would mean to black people in general.
Having a cultural impact on
yeah,
society.
And I think there was probably a part of him that socially and selfishly, in a good way, he wanted to be a part of that.
No, look, I mean, I'll say it here. If I was in his position as a black actor, being given the opportunity to front a predominantly black cast in a mainstream movie, not that's a black movie, not that's being pitched as a genre-specific black movie.
No, but it's...
I 100% would have taken it, and I wouldn't have told them.
No. no. And I think that's probably where I landed on it as well. Especially at the beginning, perhaps once you're in treatment, you're in a bit more of a powerful position to be able to disclose it, and they can't sack you for having cancer. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
But perhaps before getting the job, they could find another reason to not use you. But I got to admit, having watched stuff since, seeing sort of the physical state he was in between films, there was always a massive weight difference. He'd go from being big and
part
bulky.
of you can put that down to the fact that the physical condition that these guys need to get into play these roles is so immense that it's not realistic to maintain.
Well, absolutely. But the thing is, the turnaround of these films now, like if you listen to Hugh Jackman being interviewed, he found that in the end, if he had 5 different movies for Marvel or whoever as Wolverine,
it was easier to maintain it. Yeah.
He basically said for those 5 films, I could never let the body go because it would take too much effort to get back up to it again. So,
and also, and just going off that, we have to appreciate how much physical work he put in to get the body back
whilst being unwell.
Time. Yeah. But this situation does play out a little bit like a movie in that, we're now looking back on interviews that he's done and on pieces that he's done, and it's in a whole different light.
So of course it is. Yeah. You
like
suddenly
twist at
get
the end
the
of
other
a movie.
side of it. Yeah,
you can watch the movie again and suddenly see it in a different way.
A lot of it makes sense, and I mean, I loved the story that came out that I had no idea.
The Denzel Washington.
Yeah, is the reason he became an actor, that he actually put him through school financially.
Yeah, and I love the Denzel Washington thing about when they met up at the award show. And he said, "Oh, thank you so much. You're the one who put me through college." He's like, "I'm not here for your movie." Oh no, it was the Black Panther premiere. So I'm not here for my movie. I'm here for my money back.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes into a deep thing because it prompted a conversation between me and my mum about my uncle. Now, my uncle died before I was born, and it's a weird thing because he played such a huge part in my mum's life. They were so close, and yet I've never met him. So every time she talks about him or tells a story, I've no point of reference for it. And it's a really weird thing. But he died of cancer, bowel cancer, I believe. I'll probably be correct of that at some point. Bite me, madre. But and his thing was he didn't tell anyone that he was ill. They found out when he went for his first major operation.
Okay.
And it sort of was like almost forced to come out.
Yeah.
Of like, look, I'm going into hospital for a few days. Okay, why? All right, well, look, here's the thing.
Well, that's the thing. Whereas in truth, if he could have probably got away with not having to tell them, he perhaps would have.
Absolutely. And his thing was, quite understandably, it's as much as the people care about you and love you and whatever, it is a burden on them to know these things. It stresses them out. It gives them anxiety and stress that they don't necessarily need to have from your point of view.
Yeah.
And it sort of prompted the question of if you were diagnosed with something that wasn't necessarily particularly, let's be really specific here because it's our podcast and we can do whatever the fuck we want. Let's be quite specific and say if you were diagnosed with an illness that wasn't a death sentence now, but you knew it could develop into something terminal, would you tell people? Who would you tell? At what point would you tell which people?
Oh, the thing is, I tend to err on the side of your uncle and Chadwick in the sense that I don't know if I would tell anyone. I think my biggest fear, particularly, and this comes from the toxic masculinity side, being a big, like, quote unquote, strong man, I would hate to see the look in people's faces when they know you're not well, because inevitably you will get treated differently in some way or another.
100%.
I, like most people who get unwell, wouldn't want to be a burden to my family or to any of my loved ones or my partner. I think the only person I would want to tell, just because I wouldn't want to hide it from them, would be my partner. because I don't.
At what point would you tell her? Would you tell her when you went for the initial test what you're going for, or
No, I
a
would.
little
If
later down the
once I
line?
found a little later down the line, if it started looking bad, I'd perhaps tell them. Or if I knew it was serious, I would tell them or tell her. But no, I don't know if I would tell. I would certainly wouldn't tell my work. I wouldn't tell. I probably wouldn't tell you lot either.
No, I get that.
I know it sort of sounds selfish. I'd far rather, if I knew I was going to kick the bucket, leave some video messages rather than have to deal with having those conversations with people.
Yeah, let
Because,
future you deal with it. Let
well,
ghost
that's
you
it.
deal with it.
Because I feel like, and you see it with some people, the person you tell, you end up having to make them feel better about the fact that you could die. And it's just so wrong. And it's understandable. It's a human reaction. The other person gets upset and they're scared for you. But you almost have to make them feel better about the fact you've got cancer or some other disease, you know?
Equally though, what about right at the end? You know, you're literally on death's door, kind of thing. Would you not want to give people the likes of that? Was amazing, by the way, for such a deep moment. I feel like that was your partner's way of punishing you for not being honest earlier. For those of you that are just listening, a little piece of wall art just fell on his head.
Yes. Luckily, it's not heavy.
Which Funko Pop was it? I gotta know.
Sirius Black.
Sirius Black. There you go. The wizarding world is kicking out at you. Let me see. Yeah. So let me get back to it. So you're on death's door. Would you not want to give the likes of us lot and your family the right to their own closure, for them to say goodbye to you?
Perhaps,
and give
like if I got told
closure?
I had a couple of days left, I'd tell my missus to get you guys in, because at that point, you lot aren't going to have a go at me. Do you know what I mean? You can be angry
Well,
at me.
I might.
Actually, yeah, to be fair, I wouldn't put it past you lot.
I don't want you to feel like I'm treating you differently, so I would still call you a cunt.
I don't know. I think part of me, the selfish part of me, would still lean towards no. I don't want to have to deal with it. And also, I sort of feel like that's sort of okay because I'm the one dying.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean? You do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, definitely not telling people if it's while it's still treatable and manageable. I might tell my line manager, the manager at the very top, just as a kind of precursor, and say, look, don't tell everyone else, because I don't want to be treated differently or whatever. But if there are days when I can't make it in, or if there are days when I'm not quite with it, I want you to know the reason why. Beyond that, I probably wouldn't tell anyone. Once it got a bit more serious and it looked like I might not recover, I would probably tell the likes of my immediate family, and then maybe 4 or 5 people that I trust. I would say your partner would probably get the call. A couple of friends, Ash and Alex. Oh no, fuck Alex. Doesn't listen to the pod. Fuck Alex. Fuck that guy.
He's not finding out until you're dead.
I cannot keep giving him shout outs on the pod when he doesn't even fucking listen. But Ash and Linz, who do listen, they'd probably find out.
I wouldn't mind, but he just sits and watches cricket, which is like the most boring thing on the planet.
But hey, I'm a convert.
Cricket shit. No, sorry.
No, there's a real skill to it. There's an art to it. It's actually
when even the most famous players afterwards come out and say it's boring as fuck. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I don't sit and watch the tests. I might have it on in the background if I'm having lunch at work or something.
Most of the cricket that goes on is as boring as it is. If all of it was one dayers, I'd get it. That would make far more sense to me. But
there's something about the highlights of a test is something quite enjoyable.
Yeah, you just put it there, the highlights. So who the fuck?
God no. Like I'm not saying
who the fuck. No one sits and watches it.
Before you start coming down at cricket.
No, cricket is shit. But
no, it's good. It's it's not something.
There's some skill involved, but that's about it.
There's a lot of skill involved, but we're not going to get into that. We could, but we won't. And perhaps Alex can come on for the cricket pod and try and convert.
There is one subject I will never sit and do a podcast episode about, and that'll be cricket. I'd
And
rather
watch
do
it
one.
here, folks. Watch this space. We're doing a cricket episode.
I'd rather do one about bowls, honestly, or croquet, whatever it's called.
No, fuck you. We'll do one about bowls. Fucking World Bowls Championship or something. We'll do it.
That sounds far more interesting. I actually like bowls. Cricket can go fuck
No,
itself.
you don't. No, you don't like bowls.
I used to like
When
playing
was
it
the
with my
last?
granddad.
No. Yeah, listen. You liked your granddad. You didn't like bowls. When was the last time you played bowls? When was the last time you thought about bowls? When was the last time you watched bowls?
I think about bowls every time I go past the bowls green. Do you know what I mean? Like,
No, you think about your granddad.
hey, it was a nice memory, all right? Don't you try and besmirch my childhood memories.
Don't you try and besmirch fucking bowls. Like,
I'm not besmirching bowls. I'm saying bowls is good.
You're giving it an unfair place in the world. You're trying to bring it up to a place it does not belong.
How many people, when they retire, think, oh, I'm going to start playing cricket? No one!
Well, no, cricket's a more physical game. It's much more agile.
Oh, is it really? Standing there for 7 days, scratching your ass.
If that's what one chooses to do and that's one's playing technique, then that's one's playing technique. I'm not going to criticise it. I've completely forgotten where we were. Who was I telling? Oh, I was slagging off Alex because he doesn't listen to the pod. I was telling a few people, and that's it. That's at the point where I think it looks like I might not come back from it.
That's fair enough.
And then once I was on death's door, I probably would tell everyone. I mean, this is at this point if, I'm in a hospice kind of situation, or maybe I am at home, but it's like, look, count the days, wrap up your business, and then I'd be letting everyone get their own closure. But like yourself, I'd be recording messages from beyond the grave. I'd be recording shit to be playing at my funeral, and little messages to send out to people just to fuck with them. Just it's fun.
I would perhaps send a load of birthday cards to people to a solicitor and say, like, every now and again, can you just send one of these birthday cards to fuck with them?
But not on their birthday, just...
What, on their birthday, not on their birthday, with my handwriting, just to fuck with them, do you know what I mean? They're like, what
I don't want to... First of all, my handwriting's shit.
Yeah, it is.
And I get mocked for it relentlessly.
You have appalling handwriting.
Yeah, I write like a doctor. It's really not good.
Yeah.
I just don't think like a doctor.
No.
Secondly, I don't remember people's birthdays. I don't send people's birthdays out. Literally, some of my closest friends in the world, if it weren't for Facebook memories, I wouldn't have a clue. Not Facebook memories, Facebook birthdays. 100%, wouldn't have a clue.
100%.
People are like, every now and then you'll be talking to someone really close to and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going out for my birthday next week. And you're like, oh shit, I remember that day. So I don't want to start confusing them too much.
So yes,
I might draw like a treasure map or something. Draw little hints to people. I'd probably be quite honest with a few people if I was on my deathbed. No, that's I'm honest with them now anyway. What difference does it make?
Who was on your mind? Who are you thinking about giving some hard truths on your deathbed?
A couple of people we know who have turned out to be in amongst this Black Lives Matter movement who have turned out to be massive racists.
You'll have to let me know who the other one is, because I know one.
But it's just, I don't know who else I'd be honest. It's hard because I do generally speak my mind to people.
Yeah.
Makes it difficult to kind of have that honest moment at the end of your life. But yeah, I think I'd probably, make sure everything was in order. Make sure I'd make funeral plans as well.
Yeah.
And what I don't want is I don't want people going, it's what you would have wanted. No, I'll fucking tell you what I wanted.
Yeah, I will have a list of songs I want, everything.
And I already know what I'm going out to. I'm going out to the Baha Men's version of, what's the Lion King song?
Circle of Life?
No, the Timon when I was a cool young thing, Hakuna Matata, yeah. The Baha Men's steel drum version of Hakuna Matata. It's just such a beautiful moment to go off. It's a beautiful thing to go off to. The rest I haven't figured out yet.
During mine, at some point there'll be Highway to Hell. Either when I'm being carried in or being sent down or curtains close or at some point another one bites the dust.
If I outlive you, are you going to require me to carry you in?
Well, no, I probably
Because you
wouldn't
want me
choose
to let
you.
you down one last
I don't
time.
know. I was going to say I don't know if you're a safe pair of hands.
I'm not. I'm absolutely not.
I wouldn't trust Ash either. He'd probably be drunk at my funeral. Probably best to just leave it to the professionals.
I can imagine me and Ash convincing each other that it would just be easier to put you on. Do you know them B&Q trolleys, them big IKEA-like trolleys? It's like, look, let's just stick him on one of them and we'll wheel him in.
Honestly, I don't want people to buy flowers either. They're the biggest waste of money. Like, who are they for? Also, just put me in a cardboard box. Do you know what I mean? Don't worry about buying a fancy coffin or anything like that.
It'd be like carrying a fridge or something.
Just girth.
Yeah, I admit funerals are a huge con, man, because I don't really
Don't
give a
get
shit.
me wrong. Some of the funeral people that me and my family have used the last couple of times have been absolutely brilliant in terms of the quality of the work
It's a
they
worrying
do.
stage in your life when you have funeral people, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there's a funeral agency that I would go to again.
It's a weird repeat custom, but it works.
Yeah, and if I was to ever make a funeral plan, I would probably go to them and just be like...
Don't you get a funeral plan as part of your employment at the moment?
Yeah, with the company I work with, I do get a free funeral, yeah.
Or is that only while you're in employment with them, though? If you leave,
That's only... Well, yeah, if I leave, they're not still going to pay for me.
What happens if you retire from them? Do you still get it?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter anyway. Yeah, like I say, funerals are a huge con, man. I've got to say, but yeah, I'd tell you what. I'd have a list of people I don't want speaking. Do you know when people get up and they speak and they're like,
yeah,
I'm like, listen, you don't know me, so you're not fucking speaking. You're gonna make it all about you, so you're not speaking. There's gonna be a few people that I'm not.
Would I be allowed to speak at your funeral?
Depends. Do you know what? While I'm on my deathbed, I'd want you to show me the speech you've written, the eulogy that you've written, and I want to scan it through to make sure you're not slugging
You
me off
want to
one
do a
last
Fault in
time.
Our Stars moment? You want me to give you a pre-funeral?
I never said it was that romantic. It was a far more dictatorial. I want to make sure you don't fuck it up.
How dare you?
I didn't want to see the beautiful things you were writing. I just wanted to make sure you weren't slagging me off some more.
Well, the thing is, how can you trust I'm not going to slip that in afterwards?
It doesn't matter, does it?
Well, then why are we worried?
And ultimately, my list doesn't matter, does it?
No.
But if I thought I had this dream the other day where I was a ghost at my own funeral.
Right.
And a certain someone got up to speak, and I was livid. I was like trying to push like candles off and stuff, and I got a couple off, but it turns out it takes a lot of ghost effort to push those candles over and be a poltergeist.
And you're not about that life.
I was just sitting in between people being like, how the fuck is anyone gonna let this guy talk? I hated this guy. Who's fucking letting him talk?
It's not a nice way to talk about your dad. Do you know what I mean? Like...
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
I don't know if it's... I honestly don't know, because it's a really difficult one, because ultimately you're not going to be there.
You're dead.
Do you know what I mean? So...
I don't want the stress of my family being like, or not my family, whoever organises it. I might not have a family at that point, but I don't want whoever's organising it to be like stressed out about, oh, what would he have wanted? Oh, would he have enjoyed that? Would he have... Because I want them, first of all, to know that it doesn't matter what I want. It's not for me, it's for you.
Mm.
And secondly, you don't need to worry about it because this is what I'd have wanted.
Yeah.
I don't want black. I want lots of colour at my funeral, by the way. I want grieving but fun. I want it to be a celebration.
I think the whole suit at a funeral thing, although I get it's paying respects, it's, I don't know, I find it far too
It's a bit sombre. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't wear a suit to my own dad's funeral. Because he hated wearing the suit. I hate wearing the suit.
Because you didn't respect your dad.
No, I did actually, to be fair. But no, I just didn't. I wore jeans. I wore black jeans.
Yeah, look, black. You got black in there. Yeah, I wouldn't want black. I'd want lots of colour. I'd want lots of ridiculousness. Yeah. I wouldn't even mind if people came in fancy dress. I want it to just be one big celebration of my life.
Fancy dress isn't a bad shout.
but like free range fancy dress, because I'm not having the stress of organising the fancy dress theme is sometimes more stressful than organising a funeral.
Can you imagine? Like, I just thought of a brilliant idea. Have someone dressed as the Grim Reaper walking around, pointing at people, saying, "It'll be you next."
I wouldn't mind having the Grim Reaper standing by my coffin as the speech is being given, sort of checking his watch, being like, "Come on, wrap it up. Places to be."
Yeah.
Wouldn't be against that at all. Buried or cremated?
Cremated. I don't like the idea of my body getting eaten by worms and.
Oh, it's fine for sex games, but suddenly you die and you want to change things up.
Well, yeah, that's while I'm alive. While I'm dead, that's just grim.
I have to agree. I know I'm not that bothered about being. There's so many bodies as well, particularly where I'm not assuming that I'll
Also,
stay
in
in London.
100
But
years'
there's so
time,
many
your
bodies.
remains could be dragged up and chucked somewhere else so that they can build where you were buried. Do you know what I mean? It's just
So you're
grim.
dead. What difference does it make?
Yeah, but you're disturbing the dead. Do you know what I mean? Just
What
leave
about
them
all
to it.
the What about all the bodies that are supporting, flyovers on the M25? You saying they're not worth the respect?
Well, we clearly don't respect them.
That's what they get for being snitches.
Jesus.
Did say it'd get dark.
Yeah.
I
No,
did promise that. I also promised heart though, and that hasn't really come into it.
I also don't really want people to spend a lot of money on my funeral. Do you know what I mean? Like,
No,
just
100%. Don't bankrupt yourselves, or you could have spent that money on anything for yourselves. I'd rather you take the money of the people I care about that are spending this money, my family. Let's say I have a family at this point. I'd rather they go and have a holiday on me. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Rather than spend that money there.
absolutely. Bring my
And that would be
ashes
a
with you.
great way to remember me.
Yeah,
Go and have fun, blow off, go and do, don't avoid work. Go and do something fun.
yeah. I agree with that.
Although, after a period of bereavement, because otherwise, as you know yourself from losing someone close to you, there is a period of time where you can't enjoy fun. You just feel guilty for doing good
It
things.
is really weird. I don't know. I find that period afterwards really difficult to remember, to be honest.
No, but it
Um,
is there.
yeah, I think it's a bit later on actually where you start feeling guilty because you suddenly realise you're enjoying yourself doing something and you're like, "Oh, is that all right?"
Yeah, exactly. So, but after that, go and fuck off around the world and do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, my mum has said since my dad's passed that if it had been him that had survived and she that passed away, as soon as the funeral was over, he'd have fucked off to another country for a while. And I was like, yeah, it's probably right, to be fair.
I don't entirely blame him. Like I said, I know, there is a bereavement period and there is a tough thing, and we have to come to terms with it, and that's going to be different for everyone, and at the same time quite similar for everyone. But that I know this sounds really cold and callous, and I don't mean it that way. They're gone. They're not coming back. They don't actually care what happens afterwards. They can't care. They're dead. I'm saying that as if it was me, the person that's
Mm,
died. I'm like, you do whatever you want afterwards. I don't. I'm dead. I'm not there. And
mm.
I certainly wouldn't want to be, as most people, I'm sure you'll agree, don't want to be like a shadow hanging over their friends and family in the aftermath of their
No,
death.
no.
And that sort of brings us a bit full circle. If it's the reason why one would avoid telling people that you're ill.
Yeah, I feel like, and I could be completely wrong, that if you told the people around you, you could do the most amazing stuff with them in the remaining time you have left. But if everyone was aware of what was going on, it would have an asterisk around it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You'd feel like no matter how good a time we're having, someone right now will be looking at me thinking, "Fuck, he's going to die soon." Do you know what I mean? I feel like
yeah. And
that
even they wouldn't be
changes it.
thinking, oh, he lived an amazing life. They were like, he had a hell of a bucket list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no.
Whereas they can think that afterwards and be like, "No, good on him." But
And do what we're doing with Chadwick Boseman and sort of look back
yeah,
with hindsight and say, oh wow, yeah, actually
mm,
now I can see why he did what he did. And
yeah, absolutely.
No, I'd have to agree. I think I'm in the same boat or a similar boat. Like, as we said at the top show, I wouldn't tell people that I was ill. I wouldn't tell people that I was going to get tested. Particularly at that early stage of testing. It's not my
No,
It's not my style. The only reason, no, because even then I wouldn't. Because the thought I just started was maybe if my partner had been on at me and on at me and on at me about a particular symptom or something, he said, you need to go and get that checked, you need to go and get that checked, I might put their mind at rest by saying, I've done it, I've got the test. But even then, they're then going to be like, well, what were the results? When are you getting the results? And that's going to be a whole new level of worrying. And I'd rather just say, yeah, I'll get it tested, I'll see to it, and
it'll be
carry on
better
as
to
we
sit
were.
them down once it's sort of happened and then have the
Have that discussion.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, I think,
Yeah.
like all Crossing Swords episodes, we sort of weirdly find ourselves advocating open and honest communication, but
Yes.
and having good conversations. But the question is really when. When do you have that
Yeah,
conversation?
and I think that's different for each individual. For some people, it might feel right to do it immediately and straight away,
Yeah,
but
maybe
for
they need the
others,
support to get through it.
but maybe others feel a bit like ourselves that it's better for the majority if you struggle with a smaller circle as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And who you tell is going to vary the when as well.
Yeah.
As you said, you tell your partner relatively early on in the process, not near the beginning, but relatively early on, you tell your partner.
Yeah.
But, your mum, your sister, me, the listeners, they might not find out until a lot longer down the line.
No, they probably wouldn't.
Would you do, if it would happen whilst the pod was going, and I'd hope that the pod is going. I like the pod and I'd like to keep doing it as long as possible. But if it would happen whilst on the pod, would you do an episode or a little video or segment or something addressing it, or would you only want that to be done after the death?
I would probably pre-record something that after my
To be
death I would,
released after?
yeah, rather
I thought
than
that'd be your answer.
rather than during, because again it would just feel like, so like, say for example at that point suddenly your numbers boost. It's like, oh, there's this really brave guy, he's got cancer and he's doing this
Yeah.
podcast, and that's not the way I'd want it to be.
Fuck that. For the sake of our
I'd
numbers, that's
far
the way
rather
it's
you
going to
be
be.
able to
Fuck that.
ride the wave afterwards and you can live off my death than.
Oh, I'll milk that bad boy out like nobody's business. You better
Yeah,
believe.
and
I'll be
I'm
on
more power
every
to
other
you.
podcast, crying my little eyes out. I'm going to learn how to fake cry. I'm going to I'm going to get one of those little pens,
That
those
was a
little
lie.
onion
You
pens.
already know how. Oh.
It always comes back to our sex lives, doesn't it?
What about you though? Would you do it pre, post? Oh,
No, exactly the same. I'd do a pre-recorded one, talking about it and talking about my feelings towards death in the imminent face of it.
Yeah.
All to be released, and then a little piece at the end, perhaps, or during, about how I'd like to be remembered. Whether that's how I will be remembered or not, it's not really up to us. It's not how we're remembered. We don't tell our own stories, particularly after we're gone. But yeah, I'd pre-record one towards the end and have it released afterwards.
I think one of the most difficult things when it comes to thinking about how you'll be thought of when you're gone is you want people to understand your motivation behind your thoughts, or
Yeah.
what you do the way you do, or why you said the things you said. Because, like, for example, with disagreements we've had with people recently, I know for a fact my motivation or my mindset has absolutely not come through whatsoever to the other person. They would have seen it as a personal attack and X, Y, and Z, and that's absolutely not what it is. And I think that's the struggle for everyone. Well, if you care enough to worry about it, is that at some point you won't be around and people will judge your actions without knowing the real meaning behind it.
But ultimately, alive or dead, people will interpret our words and our actions in their own ways.
Yeah.
Once you put something out in the world, be it some kind of speech or some kind of action, it's open to interpretation. And that's one of the things that, never mind in the face of death, that we must come to grips with to be truly settled in life, to be truly comfortable and confident. You have to understand that, you know, your words and your thoughts and your actions are not your own. Once you put them out there, they're out there, and people will take with them how they will. And as much as you want them, as you say, you want them to understand why you said and did what you did, doesn't mean they will.
No, but it's nice to see for someone like Chadwick Boseman that it has come out in exactly the right way in his passing, in terms of the things he's done, and, you know, and like listening to quite a few of the speeches he made or interviews he'd done, it all feels so poignant and perfect post-death.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge testament to the man he was. And
I'll tell you what I wouldn't want. I wouldn't want people who don't like me now coming out in the aftermath and talking about how nice I was and how much they liked me.
Oh, I hate that shit.
So for them to come out and have like a begrudging admiration and say, I never liked him, but I admire the fact he did this or he said that, fair enough. But yeah.
Like, there was a guy, I never even met him, in fairness. I had 2 phone conversations. It was when I got sent to fix a store while working for the company I work for. And I spoke to the ex-store manager on the phone twice to ask him a couple of questions. And he was such a dickhead on the phone both times. Just rude, aggressive and unhelpful. And both conversations afterwards, I was like, what a cunt. And I found out like a few years on, he'd passed away of brain cancer. And the person who told me, I went, God, he was a dickhead. And they were like, you can't say that, he's dead. And I was like, I can.
I thought he was a dickhead.
I said, I had 2 encounters with the man, and both times I thought he was a dickhead. I said, yeah, it's sad he's died, but it doesn't make him less of a dickhead.
No, and 100%, that's absolutely what I want. If people think I'm a dickhead, I don't want them to be outwardly saying it when I die and be like, that dickhead. But if I come up in conversation, I want them to say, oh, I never really liked him. I thought he was a bit of a cunt.
Yeah.
I don't want people who don't like me to suddenly start being like, you know, singing my praises. I couldn't think of anything. Well, I could think of a lot of things worse, but it's a bad thought. I don't like it.
No.
I want people to be, because part of the thing is whether they like me or don't like me, or whether we agree on things or disagree on things. I want people to be true to themselves. I want them to be honest themselves. As much as I want them to be open to changing their mind, I want them to be true in their own convictions.
Absolutely.
You know, if they didn't like me, if all their encounters with me were not pleasant, then all
be
their
honest
encounters were not
about it.
Yeah. Don't start switching out because I'm dead.
No, because at the end of the day, no one's perfect. We would have pissed off someone.
Well,
you know what I mean?
No one outside of this podcast is perfect. Let's say it, let's...
No, I'm happy to put it on the record that I am a flawed human being.
That weirdly makes you perfect.
Or at the very least, self-aware.
Or, which is a polar opposite of how I opened the episode with my self-importance.
Yeah, that was such a weird start to the podcast.
Oh, man. Do you know what, though? I laughed so much reading it. I was like, God, I can't believe I wrote these. How dramatic was I? How much of a wordsmith did I think myself to have written things? I just can't get over it. Like I said, I sort of read it through a couple of times, laughed my ass off, and then was like, well, I've got to share that on the pod. People have got to know what a dickhead I am. If they don't already, which they do, they've got to know.
I think after how many episodes we've done, our dickhead level is very much open. He's very much well known.
I mean, I just remember back to a couple of episodes ago to the zombie episode. And
you thought you were going to be the leader of the new world?
No, fuck you, because I am going to be the leader of the new world, and I'm going to conduct my experiments, and no one's stopping me.
But the thing is, you're trying to say I had no intention of being the leader of a new world. I just wanted to be a part of it.
No, but the fact is,
yourself not only capable, but more than qualified to do it.
But we went out to dinner not that long ago, and it came up, and it was like, why the fuck do you think you'll be the leader?
Yeah.
But you know what? I never got any of that resistance from you in the pod. You're an enabler. You helped me stroke my own ego.
Well, it makes good podcasting. Do you know what I mean?
All I'm saying is, my
Thing I can't
self-importance is
win.
not a solo
I shoot
effort.
you down and I get told, man, you need to show man some respect. And then I enable and that's wrong. So
You need to show man some respect without enabling. You need to, do but don't do. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you get me? You need to be but not be.
and
You need
that
to
is the
help but not help.
question. And on that note,
Well, not on that note, because we must do what we almost must do. We must say that you can find us at Swords Crossing on Twitter.
well, yeah, that's normally how we close, Jake. I wasn't saying we just stop it there. Jesus.
Or like Sopranos. How good would that be?
Somewhere like here, somewhere along the bottom, in this direction.
How good would that be?
Would be the details.
If Sopranos style, we just cut mid, just as you were about to reveal the magnificent beast below, just as you were pulling your shorts down, we just cut. That would be an end. Do you know what I'm thinking? If we ever bring the pod to a close, that's how we close it.
On my penis?
On your penis, but not on your, tastefully on your penis.
Yeah. It'll be a semi. I don't want you guys to be too, I don't want to be too intimidated. By what you say. Do you know what I mean?
You don't want to emasculate a whole group of listeners.
No, and
I get that.
If you wish to emasculate us, you can contact us on Twitter at Swords Crossing, on Facebook at Crossing Swords, and you can email us on crossingswords19@gmail.com.
Can I just be clear? Because it sounded very much like you're just encouraging our listeners to send dick pics.
Hey, look, if it gets the numbers up, Jay.
Gets a lot of things up, I imagine.
I'm not offering to service these penises. I'm just saying send them in.
No, well, that was Series 1, Jake. We're past that. Series 1, Jake offered a lot of
I'm pretty sure
favor.
even in Season 2, you were still offering out the occasional hand job.
I've downgraded, though. I'd sort of pulled it back to just handies, and they weren't like every episode.
Howard.
Yeah, it's a bit more tasteful. It's a bit more classy.
You were making house calls, do you know what I mean?
I've got about. I put some miles on the clock, for sure. For sure.
The inside of your car looks like a Jackson Pollock painting, do you know what I mean?
And I can't think of a better image to end the podcast on from and if you think about it, the ejaculate is the beginning of life. So in many ways we've gone from death to life, full circle. And I love a bad segue. I love a bad segue. There it is. Thank you for listening once again. Thank you for tuning in.
And guys, as always, look after yourselves and your families, and we love you.
And you know what? Just going back to the Chadwick Boseman thing, as a lot of people have said, you never know what people are going through. Be kind.
No. Absolutely.
Be
Wakanda
patient.
forever.
Wakanda forever.